Welcome to From Vision to Venture, the podcast for entrepreneurs, dreamers, and changemakers ready to turn ideas into thriving businesses. I'm Neville Solomon, and each week we'll explore the strategies, mindsets, and practical steps needed to start, grow, and scale successful ventures. Because every great business starts with a vision, and your journey starts right here.
So back in 2020, a company called Quibi launched with like nearly $2 billion in funding.
Yeah, that was just wild.
Right. I mean, they had Hollywood's biggest directors, A-list celebrities, and a platform that was engineered to absolute technical perfection.
And then what, 6 months later?
6 months later, the entire company was dead. $2 billion just evaporated.
Wow.
And, you know, when you see a massive failure like that, or even when just like a local bakery quietly boards up its windows, there's this tendency to look for a really clean mathematical postmortem.
Oh, for sure. We want the numbers to explain it.
Exactly. We pull up the balance sheet, we stare at the red ink and say, well, there it is. They just ran out of money.
Which is, frankly, it's a comforting fiction.
Right.
We desperately want business failure to be a strictly binary financial event, you know?
Yeah.
Because numbers are neat. They don't carry any emotional baggage.
They're safe.
Exactly. They're safe. If we can blame a macroeconomic shift or some aggressive competitor or a sudden change in an ad algorithm, we completely avoid looking at the actual root cause.
And the root cause isn't money.
No. Running out of capital is almost never the cause of death. It's really just a symptom. I mean, it's the final stage of an underlying disease that typically infected the project on day one.
Which is exactly what we are getting into today. So welcome to the deep dive.
Thrilled to be here.
We are so glad you're joining us because today we are looking at a text that completely shatters those comforting financial illusions we just talked about.
It really does.
We're unpacking this incredibly insightful script from the Vision to Venture podcast. It's titled, If You Don't Understand Your Customer, Your Startup Will Struggle.
Yeah, and the core thesis here is just so provocative.
It is. It argues that the true number one reason startups fail isn't a lack of funding, it isn't fierce competition, and it isn't a flawed marketing campaign.
Right.
It's something much deeper, much more insidious, and honestly, entirely psychological.
Yeah, the source material presents a really fascinating framework for this. If we synthesize the overarching argument, it basically boils down to a tragic, often fatal disconnect between a founder's internal assumptions and the market's external reality.
Like a mismatch.
Exactly. Founders will spend months, sometimes literally years, building these elaborate products in a complete vacuum.
Yeah, just locked in a room coding or designing.
Right. And they are constructing what they believe customers want, largely driven by their own cognitive biases rather than doing the messy, uncomfortable work of discovering what customers actually need.
And the result of that is?
The predictable result is that agonizing scenario where a product launches, people politely say it looks interesting, and absolutely zero purchases actually materialize.
Oof. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I know you, the listener, whether you're trying to get a tech venture off the ground or opening a consulting firm or even just pitching a massive workflow change to your boss.
Yeah.
You have probably felt that specific quiet devastation.
Oh, it's a terrible feeling.
It is. You build something you think is undeniably brilliant, you put it out into the world, and the market just yawns.
Yeah. Just crickets.
So our mission today is to deconstruct this Vision to Venture text. We want to find out how to actually uncover the reality of what people need and avoid the trap of just building what we want to sell.
Right.
So where does this massive failure rate actually originate? Where is day one?
Well, to find the origin of the failure, the text forces us to look at the exact starting point of every single business endeavor, which is the idea itself.
The idea.
Yeah. We culturally idolize the light bulb moment, right? But the text argues that this initial spark of inspiration is actually a psychological hazard. They label it the dangerous assumption.
The dangerous assumption. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but I can see how an untested idea is essentially just a manifestation of ego.
Completely.
Like a founder experiences a minor inconvenience in their own life, they devise a clever workaround, and they immediately leap to the conclusion that millions of other people must want that exact same solution.
Delivered in that exact same way.
Right.
Think about the cognitive bias at play there. It's the false consensus effect. We naturally overestimate how much other people share our beliefs, our habits, and our preferences.
We think everyone is just like us.
Exactly. A founder thinks, I am a rational, intelligent person. I love this feature. Therefore, other rational, intelligent people will naturally love it too.
Right.
But the source text explicitly warns against this delusion. It states, and I quote, "Just because you like something doesn't mean the market does."
That feels like something we all nod along to, But we completely ignore it when we are the ones actually doing the building.
Oh, 100%. Because avoiding it requires us to step outside our own identity, which is really hard.
Yeah, takes real effort.
The text highlights 4 specific dimensions where this disconnect between the founder's mindset and the market's reality hits the hardest.
Okay, what are they?
Founders and customers operate with different priorities, entirely different budgets, different fears, and different motivations.
Okay, let's break down the anatomy of that disconnect, maybe starting with priorities.
Yeah.
Because as a creator, my priority is the thing I'm making.
Right, your product.
Yeah, I wake up thinking about the user interface, the elegant code, the packaging, the branding.
Yeah.
I mean, I am completely consumed by it.
And the customer is completely consumed by their own survival.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, their priorities are their children, their morning commute, their overflowing inbox, their mortgage. Your product does not even exist in their hierarchy of needs until it forcibly intersects with a problem in their day.
That's a huge reality check.
It is. If you design a marketing campaign assuming the customer cares about the elegance of your back-end code as much as you do, you're effectively talking to a brick wall. You're projecting your priorities onto someone who is really just trying to get through till Friday.
It's like buying a birthday gift for a friend, but buying them the video game that you want to play.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
It's an act of pure ego, disguised as a solution, or disguised as generosity. You wrap it up beautifully, you hand it over, and you feel incredibly thoughtful.
Meanwhile, they don't even own the console required to play it.
Exactly. You solved your own desire, not theirs.
A very apt analogy. And that projection leads directly into the second massive disconnect the text brings up, which is the budget.
Money. Always a pain point.
Always. See, founders operate in a realm of theoretical valuation. They look at their creation and calculate its worth based on its hypothetical impact.
Right, like this software saves 10 minutes a day. Over a year, that's hours of productivity. So a $50 premium subscription is a total steal.
Exactly. But the customer isn't doing high-level mathematical modeling on their annual productivity.
No, they're looking at their bank app.
Right. They are looking at their very real, very limited bank account. The customer is operating within the rigid constraints of mental accounting. They are comparing your new subscription to their grocery bill or, their electricity bill, or even just the clunky but entirely free workaround they already use.
Yeah, free is a tough competitor.
Very tough. Founders wildly assume the market has this highly elastic budget reserved for innovation. The reality is that consumer budgets are incredibly inelastic, governed mostly by habit and basic necessity.
But wait, if the budget is that inelastic, how do you convince anyone to ever part with their money? It can't just be about demonstrating value on a spreadsheet.
No, it can't.
It has to connect to something deeper. Right?
It connects to the third disconnect the text mentions, which is where behavioral economics really comes into play, and that is different fears.
I found this part of the text totally fascinating. Because my fear as a founder is really obvious. I'm terrified of going bankrupt. I'm terrified of looking like a failure to my investors. And I'm deeply afraid of my idea just being rejected by the public.
Yep. The classic founder anxieties.
So I build defensively against those specific anxieties.
But the customer couldn't care less if your venture fails.
Right. They don't care at all.
They have zero emotional stake in your cap table. Their fears are entirely personal and context dependent. Let's take a business-to-business setting.
Okay.
Say you are pitching a revolutionary new logistics software to a mid-level manager. You are hyping the massive growth potential because you, the founder, are motivated by ambition.
Right. I want to disrupt the industry.
But that manager is sitting across the table terrified that if they buy your untested software and it crashes the warehouse, they will be publicly humiliated and fired.
Oh, wow. So the founder is speaking the language of ambition and disruption, while the buyer is desperately trying to mitigate personal career risk.
Exactly.
We aren't even speaking the same emotional dialect.
You are worlds apart. And, it applies to consumer products, too. If someone buys an expensive new fitness bike, the founder thinks the customer fears staying out of shape.
Which makes sense on the surface.
But the customer's actual immediate fear is that they will buy this expensive piece of metal, let it gather dust in the living room, and feel a deep sense of guilt and stupidity every single time they walk past it.
I have absolutely felt that exact fear.
Right. We all have. The text argues that if you don't understand these specific underlying fears and the differing daily motivations, like a founder wanting to build a legacy versus a customer just wanting to cure a nagging headache, your startup is effectively flying blind.
Okay, I see the danger in assuming we are our own target market, but let me just play devil's advocate and challenge the core premise for a second.
Sure, go for it.
We just laid out why unbridled ideas are dangerous. But wait, ideas are the spark of literally all human progress.
That's true.
Without a stubborn founder holding onto a wild idea, we don't get the airplane, we don't get the iPhone. Are we saying that having a strong vision or an idea is inherently bad?
No, and the text is really careful to make a crucial distinction here. The idea itself isn't bad. The danger lies in leaving the idea untested.
Untested.
The hazard isn't the spark of inspiration, right? It's assuming that spark is already a fully roaring fire. The text demands that founders undergo a profound psychological shift in the very first question they ask the world.
Because most founders start by seeking validation. We take our shiny new prototype to our friends, our family, our colleagues, and we ask, hey, do you like my idea?
Which is a completely useless metric.
Is it?
Oh, totally. Human beings are socially conditioned to avoid unnecessary conflict. If you show someone a project you've poured your soul into and ask if they like it, they will almost universally say yes, just to protect your feelings.
Just to be nice.
Exactly. It feeds the founder's ego, but effectively starves the business of real data.
So what is the shift? If we can't ask if they like it, what do we ask?
The text dictates that instead of asking the validation-seeking question, do people like my idea, the founder must ask a strictly utilitarian question, and that is, what problem am I solving?
What problem am I solving? That completely removes the founder from the center of the universe.
It really does.
It takes the spotlight off the clever product and shines it directly onto the user.
It does, and this brings us to what might be the golden rule of this entire source document. The text states, successful companies don't sell products, they solve problems.
I love that.
And it pairs that with a brilliant corollary. The bigger the problem, the easier the sale.
That makes profound logical sense. Because think about it, if I have a tiny paper cut on my finger, you are going to have to do a lot of persuasive marketing to sell me a $50 specialty bandage.
Oh, tons of marketing. You'd never buy it.
Right. But if my arm is actively on fire, I don't need marketing. I will voluntarily hand you my entire wallet for a bucket of water.
Exactly. Your product idea might be the equivalent of the most scientifically advanced, beautifully designed paper-cut ointment in the world. But if the market isn't bleeding, your brilliant idea is irrelevant.
You have to locate the fire.
You have to locate the fire.
So, if the dangerous assumption is focusing too much on our own brilliant product idea, how do we actually shift our mindset to focus on the problem? We establish that founders wake up obsessing over their product. How do we rewire our entrepreneurial brains to focus on the fire instead?
The text provides a clear mandate for this. It uses a phrase that has become a bit of a mantra in modern startup philosophy, though honestly, it's rarely executed with the depth it requires. The mandate is simply fall in love with the problem.
Fall in love with the problem, not the product.
Exactly. It requires a transfer of affection.
The transfer of affection. I like that phrasing.
Yeah, the text notes that it's incredibly common to hear entrepreneurs declare they are passionate about their product. They love the aesthetics of their app. They love the complexity of their algorithm. They love the ambiance of their new cafe.
Guilty as charged.
Right, we all do it.
Yeah.
But the text argues that passion for the product is fundamentally insufficient. You have to become deeply, obsessively passionate about the customer's suffering.
See, falling in love with the problem sounds poetic, but what does that emotional shift actually look like in practice? How do I, sitting at my desk, fall in love with someone else's inventory management headache?
Well, it looks like intense, empathetic curiosity. To facilitate this shift from product obsession to problem obsession, the text gives us 4 diagnostic questions.
Okay, let's hear them.
These are the lenses through which founders must view their target customers. First, what frustrates them every day?
Okay.
Second, what wastes their time? Third, what costs them money? And fourth, what causes stress?
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, because if you step back and look at those 4 questions, daily frustration, wasted time, lost money, and stress, you are essentially looking at a comprehensive map of human suffering.
You really are.
Not to be overly dramatic, but it is a highly targeted diagnostic tool for locating exactly where a person's life is breaking down.
It is a map of friction. Let's analyze the nuances of these 4 areas, starting with daily frustration.
Let's do it.
Frustration is a very specific emotional frequency.
Mhm.
It's rarely a massive, life-altering catastrophe. It is a pebble in the shoe.
A pebble in the shoe. Okay, give me an example.
It's the software that requires you to log in every single time you open a new tab. It's the plastic packaging that requires industrial scissors to open. It's a recurring, low-grade annoyance.
But because it's recurring, the compound effect is massive. If your solution can simply remove that one daily pebble, the customer doesn't just buy the product, they feel a genuine sense of relief.
They feel understood, which is huge. Now look at the next 2 diagnostics.
Yeah.
What wastes their time and what costs them money.
The big ones.
These deal with the 2 most tangible, measurable currencies in a person's life.
And they are deeply intertwined, right?
Absolutely intertwined. If your business can definitively prove that it gives a user back 5 hours of their week or, stops a slow financial leak in their operating budget, the product effectively sells itself.
You don't need to push it.
No, you are no longer in the position of asking them to do you a favor by buying your product. You are offering them a mathematically sound return on investment.
Right. Then we get to the final diagnostic question. What causes stress? And stress feels like the heaviest of the 4 to me.
It does.
It's the emotional burden we carry home. It's the anxiety of filing taxes incorrectly and facing an audit. It's the worry about whether your aging parents are safe at home alone.
Yeah, those keep people up at night.
If you can alleviate that level of stress, you aren't just selling a piece of software or a hardware device, you are selling peace of mind.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this shift from loving the product to loving the problem fundamentally alters the founder's resilience. It changes their whole relationship with failure.
Break that down for me. How does loving the problem make a founder more resilient?
Think about the psychology of a product-obsessed founder. They are incredibly rigid. Their entire identity is wrapped up in this specific app or this specific service.
Right, it's their baby.
Exactly. If the market rejects it, they take it as a personal attack. Their dream is shattered. They believe the business is dead because the product failed.
And what about the problem-obsessed founder?
A problem-obsessed founder is highly adaptable. If they fall in love with solving the immense stress of freelance tax preparation and their first software iteration is too complicated and fails, they don't give up. They don't take it personally.
They just pivot.
Yeah, they simply say, okay, that tool didn't solve the problem effectively. Let's scrap it and design a new tool.
The problem remains the constant North Star, which gives them the fuel to keep iterating. The failure of a prototype isn't a failure of the founder's vision. It's just a necessary misstep in the process of serving the problem they love.
Exactly.
That removes so much ego from the equation.
It replaces ego with scientific inquiry, which is much healthier.
It is, but, this brings up a massive logistical hurdle.
What is it?
Well, I understand the mindset. We know we need to fall in love with the customer's daily frustrations, their time wasters, and their stress.
Yeah.
But we can't just guess what those are from our home office.
No, you definitely can't.
I can't stare at my ceiling and magically deduce what frustrates a shift manager at a manufacturing plant. So how do we actually extract these pains from the real world?
This is exactly where the text transitions from a philosophical mindset into concrete methodology. It explicitly states a non-negotiable rule.
Which is?
Customer research isn't optional. You cannot skip this step and hope for the best.
Customer research is one of those terms that immediately triggers anxiety for a lot of people.
Oh, it terrifies people.
It sounds incredibly expensive. I hear customer research and I picture, hiring a consulting agency, setting up focus groups behind two-way mirrors, compiling massive demographic spreadsheets.
And the text anticipates that exact apprehension. It immediately reassures the reader that effective research does not require a massive budget.
Oh, thank goodness.
In fact, it argues that in the early stages, outsourcing this to an agency is actually a mistake.
Wait, really? A mistake?
Yeah. It shouldn't start with sterile surveys or big data analytics. It starts with messy human conversations. You have to interview people, you observe them, you watch how they are currently trying to navigate the problem you are interested in.
So the directive is just to go out and talk to people.
Basically, yeah.
That sounds deceptively simple.
It is simple in theory, but it is notoriously difficult to execute correctly.
How is that?
Because human psychology gets in the way. The text provides a very specific methodology for conducting these conversations, and it focuses heavily on the structural phrasing of your questions. The absolute critical directive is to ask open-ended questions and religiously avoid leading questions.
Okay, a leading question being one that inherently suggests the answer you want to hear.
Yes, the text provides a stark contrast that we really need to analyze deeply here. It gives us what we can call the toxic question versus the magic question.
Ooh, I like this. Okay, what is the toxic question that founders need to avoid?
The toxic question is the exact question almost every untrained founder defaults to. And it is, would you buy this?
Would you buy this? I mean, it seems like the most efficient way to get to the bottom line, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why is that considered toxic?
Because it forces social compliance over honest feedback. We touched on this earlier. When you ask a closed-ended, hypothetical question about the future, especially when sitting face-to-face with someone, you trigger their instinct for politeness.
Oh, right.
If you hand someone a prototype you just spent 6 months building and ask, would you buy this? They look at your hopeful face and they do not want to crush your spirit. They don't want to look you in the eye and say, no, this is absolutely useless to me.
Right. They smile, they nod, and they say, oh, totally, this looks incredibly innovative. Let me know when it launches.
Yep.
And then they proceed to dodge your emails for the rest of eternity.
Exactly. And the tragedy is the founder walks away from that conversation thinking they have a validated market. But they don't have data. They have a polite fiction. It is a psychological trap that leads to ruin.
So what is the alternative? How do we bypass that social compliance? What is the magic question?
The magic question provided by the text is this. Tell me how you currently solve this problem.
Tell me how you currently solve this problem. Wow, that completely shifts the dynamic of the conversation.
It does. It removes the hypothetical future and forces them to talk about the concrete past.
It's exactly like a doctor diagnosing a patient.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right, a good doctor doesn't walk into the exam room, hold up a scalpel and say, would you like to buy this heart surgery? That would be absurd, not to mention completely terrifying.
Very terrifying.
A diagnostician walks in and says, tell me where it hurts. Walk me through what you've been doing at home to manage the pain. They observe the symptoms and the history before they ever dream of suggesting a treatment protocol.
You must act exactly as an investigative diagnostician by asking, tell me how you currently solve this problem. You are investigating their past behavior. And in behavioral science, past behavior is the single most reliable predictor of future action.
That makes total sense.
If a problem isn't painful enough for them to have already tried solving it, it isn't painful enough for them to buy your solution.
So when we are out there acting like doctors, asking these open-ended questions, what specifically are we looking for when they answer? Are we looking for them to describe a tool similar to ours?
You are looking for friction. You are looking for the makeshift duct tape solutions they have cobbled together.
Okay, give me an example of a duct tape solution.
Well, if you ask a logistics manager how they handle route tracking and they say, oh, I spend 3 hours every Sunday manually copying data from this legacy software into an Excel spreadsheet, and it drives me insane.
Wow.
You have just struck gold. You didn't pitch them an automated transfer tool. You uncovered a massive time-wasting frustration that they're already experiencing and actively trying to manage.
And the text mentions that the answers may surprise you. Let's pull on that thread. What happens when the customer's answer completely contradicts the founder's initial thesis?
This is where the real value of the open-ended inquiry reveals itself. Let's say you are determined to build a highly complex, AI-driven task management app because you believe people are overwhelmed by disorganization.
Very common startup idea.
Very common. So you sit down with a target user and ask, tell me how you currently manage your daily tasks. And they pull out a battered paper notebook and say, I just write them down.
Oh, wow.
If you probe further and ask why they don't use digital tools, they might reveal because entering tasks on a screen feels like more work, but the physical act of writing it down on paper feels like a psychological release.
Oh. So the core problem isn't a lack of sophisticated organization software. The real problem is the tactile anxiety of managing workload.
Precisely. The underlying problem is completely different from what you assumed. If you had walked in and asked the toxic question, would you buy my AI task app? They probably would have said yes, just to be agreeable.
Right.
But by asking how they currently solve it, you realize your app is actively fighting against their psychological need for tactile release. That realization, as the text points out, is incredibly valuable. It prevents you from building the wrong thing.
And the text grounds this advice with a very specific financial warning about the cost of missing this step. It says, better to learn early than after investing thousands of rands.
It's a crucial reality check.
I really appreciate that specific currency reference, rands, because it places this wisdom firmly within the context of the South African entrepreneurial ecosystem, while highlighting a universal truth.
Absolutely.
Because whether you are dealing in rands, dollars, euros, or yen, the economic stakes are the exact same. Building the wrong product because you relied on polite validation is a profoundly expensive mistake.
Very expensive.
While having a 30-minute conversation with a human being is essentially free.
It is the ultimate form of risk mitigation. You are spending a small amount of social energy up front to save massive amounts of capital and time down the road.
Okay, so we are out in the field. We are acting like diagnostic doctors, asking open-ended questions about past behavior, trying to avoid wasting thousands of rands.
Right.
But when we are sitting in these interviews, listening to customers talk about their workflows, what exactly are we listening for? Are we just writing down facts and figures like user opens Excel 4 times a week to run a macro?
Technical workflows and facts are useful for product design, certainly, but they are not the ultimate treasure here. The text brings us to a fascinating revelation about the psychology of purchasing.
Oh, tell me.
It states, point blank, that customers rarely buy because of logic alone.
Interesting.
Therefore, if you are only listening for logical workflows, you are missing the actual trigger. You must listen incredibly carefully for the specific emotional words they use when describing their problems.
The emotional words. This brings us right into the lexicon of conversion, the deep psychology of marketing.
It does. The text lists specific phrases you should be hunting for during these open-ended diagnostic interviews.
What are the phrases?
You are listening for phrases like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm wasting time, I'm frustrated, I'm embarrassed, I'm scared of failing.
Let's pause and really look at the vulnerability embedded in those statements, because I think we gloss over this in business.
We do, constantly.
If you are interviewing a B2B client like a seasoned manager at a logistics firm or a B2C customer looking for a personal finance tool, the fact that they are admitting to a stranger that they are embarrassed or scared, that is massive.
It is huge.
Why are they choosing those highly charged words?
Because underneath every logistical, professional, or practical problem, there is an emotional toll being exacted. The logistics manager isn't just mathematically annoyed that the supply chain is slow. He is actively embarrassed because the delays make him look incompetent in front of the executive board. He is scared of losing his livelihood.
That is so real.
And the person trying to organize their personal finances isn't just looking for a spreadsheet template. They are overwhelmed by debt and scared of failing their family.
So if a customer is handing you those vulnerable words, they aren't just complaining. They're literally handing you the keys to their decision-making process.
They are handing you your entire marketing strategy verbatim. The text states explicitly, those emotional phrases tell you exactly how your marketing should communicate.
This perfectly bridges the gap between raw research and actual execution. You don't have to hire a fancy copywriter to invent a clever slogan. You literally take the exact words out of the customer's mouth and put them on your landing page.
Let's look at the specific example the text provides to illustrate this, because it perfectly captures the difference between talking to the brain and talking to the gut. The text uses the example of an accounting software startup.
Accounting. A universally dreaded topic. Let's break it down.
So the text positions feature-based logical marketing as the bad way to communicate. In this scenario, the startup's headline is, "Our software automates accounting."
Now, obviously, if you listen to the show, you know the basics of features versus benefits. But let's look at why that specific phrase fails so miserably. I mean, it's logical, it's factually accurate, it describes exactly what the product does.
But it is completely sterile.
Exactly.
It demands that the customer do the cognitive work of translating that feature into a personal benefit. It speaks to the brain, but the brain isn't what pulls out the credit card.
Right.
Now, contrast that with the emotional marketing the good way, which is derived entirely from listening to the customer's actual fears during research. The headline changes from, "Our software automates accounting," to, "Spend less time worrying about paperwork and more time growing your business."
The difference in impact is staggering. It really is.
What's fascinating here is what is missing from that second headline.
The word software isn't in there at all.
Nope.
The word accounting isn't even in there.
Exactly. It completely abandons the technical description of the product.
Huh.
It strictly addresses the emotional pain worrying about paperwork and the ultimate emotional desire growing your business.
It bypasses the logical defense mechanisms entirely and speaks directly to the founder's soul.
The text concludes this point by saying, that's a message customers immediately understand. You aren't asking them to decipher technical jargon. You are simply handing them the emotional relief they explicitly asked for.
You know, if you are listening to this and your website right now just lists a bunch of features like we offer 24/7 support, we utilize a proprietary algorithm, we integrate with the cloud, you are forcing your customer to do way too much work.
Way too much work.
You need to go back to those interview transcripts. Find out what they're scared of, what they're overwhelmed by, and rewrite your copy using their exact phrasing. Connect with the vulnerability.
It is the progression from selling a feature to selling a logical benefit to ultimately selling emotional resonance.
Okay, let's take stock of where we are in this framework.
Yeah.
We have adopted the right mindset. We're actively trying to fall in love with the problem, not our product.
Check.
We have the right research methodology. We are asking open-ended diagnostic questions to uncover past behavior. And we have extracted the exact emotional language to use for our marketing.
Right.
We have done all the intellectual groundwork, but at some point, we actually have to physically bring this into the real world. We have to build the thing. How do we do that without falling back into the trap of overbuilding and risking thousands of rands?
This brings us to the final methodology outlined in the text, which serves as the ultimate antidote to expensive perfectionism.
Okay, what is it?
It is the cycle of build, measure, learn.
Build, measure, learn. Now, obviously, our listeners are likely familiar with Eric Ries and the basic tenets of the lean startup methodology. But the text seems to frame this not just as a business operations tactic, but as a psychological necessity.
Yes, it approaches it as a defense against the founder's ego. The text opens this section with a very blunt, powerful statement. Perfection is expensive.
Perfection is incredibly expensive. It costs vast amounts of time, it burns through capital, and perhaps most dangerously, it costs you the opportunity to learn.
Founders often harbor this deep-seated belief that they must wait until every single bug is squashed, every feature is polished to a high gloss, and the branding is absolutely flawless before they let a single customer see it.
We've all been there.
But the text argues that this perfectionism is actually a psychological shield. It's a way to delay the terrifying moment of external judgment. The mandate here is to strip away that shield and launch something small.
Launching small. The text provides a rapid-fire tactical list for getting out of the building quickly, doesn't it?
It does. It offers 4 specific, highly tactical, low-risk strategies for collecting real-world feedback without building the entire product. First, create a prototype.
Okay.
Second, offer pre-orders. Third, build a waiting list. Fourth, run small advertising campaigns.
Let's analyze why these specific mechanisms are so effective. Take a prototype. A prototype doesn't have to be a fully functional piece of code or a manufactured physical good, right?
Not at all.
It can literally be a click-through wireframe design,
Yeah.
a detailed PDF, or even a storyboard showing how a service will operate. It just has to be tangible enough for the customer to react to it.
Right, because you are testing the concept, not the underlying infrastructure. And the next 2 pre-orders and waiting lists are phenomenal tools because they test the ultimate metric of validation, which is commitment.
Commitment.
Think back to our discussion about the toxic question. If you ask, would you buy this? Social compliance kicks in and they say yes. But if you present a landing page and say, this launches next month, can I get your credit card for a $10 pre-order? You instantly shatter that social compliance.
You find out real quick.
You find out immediately if the problem is painful enough that they're willing to part with actual hard-earned resources to solve it.
And the fourth tactic, running small advertising campaigns, allows you to test those emotional marketing messages we just dissected.
Oh, this is a great hack.
You can spend $50 on a social media ad with the headline, "Our software automates accounting," and another $50 on an ad saying, "Spend less time worrying about paperwork." You don't even need the software to be finished. You just need to measure which emotional hook generates clicks.
You are essentially buying highly targeted data. You are running controlled experiments in the real world.
But let me play devil's advocate again here.
Yeah.
I hear what the text is saying about launching small, but let's say I'm trying to build a premium brand. If I release a clunky, half-finished prototype, or I set up a waiting list for something that barely functions, aren't my early adopters just going to drag my brand reputation on social media?
It's a valid fear.
Don't you only get one chance to make a first impression?
It is the most common fear founders have, but the text, backed by decades of startup history, firmly counters this.
Okay, how so?
The reality is that your true early adopters, the people who are experiencing the absolute maximum amount of pain from the problem, are incredibly forgiving of clunky prototypes. Yes, if your core solution actually relieves their massive stress, they do not care if the button is the wrong shade of blue, or if the interface is ugly, or if it occasionally crashes. If it saves them 3 hours a week, they will love it.
Wow, cool.
The text explicitly defines success not as a flawless grand opening, but as a continuous cycle of learning. The cycle is collect feedback, improve, repeat.
So the launch isn't the finish line where you pop champagne. The launch is literally just the starting line for data collection.
Precisely. The text states unequivocally that this cycle of learning is what separates successful startups from struggling ones. It is not a competition to see who has the most brilliant initial idea. It is a race to see who can loop through that build, measure, learn cycle the fastest.
That changes the whole game.
Every single conversation you have teaches you something new. Every piece of customer feedback makes the business more resilient.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? It means we had to systematically dismantle our own pride.
Yeah, we do.
We have to swap the high cost of perfection, which only serves to protect our ego, for the high value of continuous learning, which actually serves the customer. It means we stop pretending to be the solitary genius who guesses everything right on the first try, and we start acting like the rigorous scientist who runs the best experiments.
That is an excellent comprehensive summation of the Vision to Venture framework.
As we head toward the close of this deep dive, it's really important to note that the source text doesn't just leave us with abstract theory. It drops a very specific, actionable challenge for the listener. And I want to lay this challenge out for you right now, because it is the crucible where this theory becomes reality.
The challenge is highly tactical and immediate.
It is. The text demands, and I quote, "This week, don't spend more time working on your product.
Just stop.
Just stop. Step away from the keyboard, put down the design tools, close the spreadsheet. Instead, the challenge is to spend time talking to customers. Have 10 conversations.
10 conversations. That is the homework assignment. And the text provides clear rules of engagement for these interactions, synthesizing everything we've discussed today. You must ask thoughtful, open-ended questions about their past behavior. You must listen significantly more than you speak, which is incredibly difficult for enthusiastic founders who just want to pitch.
Oh, it's so hard to stay quiet.
And you must physically write down the recurring emotional themes.
If 3 out of those 10 people mention they are embarrassed by their current workflow, you circle that word in bright red ink. That is your new marketing campaign.
Because the text guarantees something very powerful if you complete this challenge. It states, you'll learn more from one honest customer conversation than from weeks of guessing.
Before we wrap up, we want to make sure we mention the specific community called out in the text to give it that proper context.
Right.
It speaks directly to the Tikva Startup Readiness community, reminding those listeners and frankly all of us trying to build something of value to keep learning, keep validating, and keep building businesses that solve real problems.
It is a great reminder that understanding your customer is a continuous, lifelong posture. It's not a one-time checklist you complete before launch.
Definitely not.
If we are to deliver the ultimate synthesis from this entire document, it is this. Businesses do not grow because founders have brilliant ideas. They grow because they consistently solve meaningful problems for real people.
That is the absolute core of it.
When you truly, deeply understand your customer's pain, everything else aligns naturally. Product building becomes accurate rather than speculative. Marketing becomes crystal clear because you are echoing their own emotional language.
Sales become easier too.
Much easier. Sales conversations become frictionless because you are offering relief rather than pushing features. And ultimately, your strategic decisions become infinitely smarter.
It takes the terrifying guesswork out of the game. I want to read the parting mantra from the text verbatim because it is something you should probably write on a sticky note and attach to your monitor.
Go for it.
It says, "People don't buy what you sell. They buy the value it creates in their lives."
A profound and humbling truth. And to close our deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over. Something that builds on this philosophy of problem obsession.
Okay, lay it on us.
We've talked extensively about falling in love with the problem. Ask yourself this. If your customer's core problem suddenly disappeared tomorrow, poof, completely solved by magic or some massive shift in the universe, what completely different problem would you be uniquely qualified to solve for them next?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy question.
If you don't know the answer to that, it likely means you are still too intimately attached to your specific product and you aren't actually close enough to the person you're trying to serve. True customer understanding means you know their entire landscape of struggles so intimately, you could pivot to solve their next major issue without missing a beat.
That is something to seriously evaluate this week. Think about the person, not just the product. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Vision to Venture framework. Go out there, have those 10 conversations, act like the careful diagnostician, and please stop building in the dark. We'll get you on the next one.
Thank you for joining me on From Vision to Venture. Remember, successful businesses aren't built overnight. They're built through clarity, consistency, and the courage to take the next step. Every entrepreneur starts with a vision, but it's intentional action that turns that vision into a venture.